track breakdown number 1, we're going to do Dennis Cruz's New Life. I think this track stayed at number 1 for 68 days. Pretty crazy. So basically what we're going to do is just break it down. This is so key to learning everything that you want to learn about producing, like just listening to your favorite tracks. The best tutorials are your favorite tracks. And this method right here is where I learned 90% of what I know. You know, the other 10% is like reading, looking at YouTube videos, experimenting. But most of what I know comes from this process. Just breaking down arrangements and asking myself, why did they do that? And just trying to figure it out. And of course, in doing that, you come up with a way of explaining things to yourself. And so I have a way of explaining things to myself, and that's precisely what I teach in my courses. Is I've come up with kind of a language or my own kind of theory of approaching production, and that's what I teach you because it's helped me, and I think it can help you. But when you go through these exercises, obviously you're going to pick up on concepts and techniques that I talk about, but you might pick up on something completely different. And then so you start kind of coming up with your own framework of understanding. And that is ultimately what's going to help you progress, as you're going to hear all these subtleties and details and nuances that you've never heard before. And you're going to start coming up with theories explaining why they're working or how you can work them into your own tracks. And by far, that is the best thing that you could do for your music, is try to understand what is separating you from the professional tracks by analyzing the professional tracks, and then coming up with ways that you can try to add things to your workflow, add techniques to your workflow that will help you get there. I mean, that's it. So just going through this exercise is key. So let's go ahead and start. Here we go. So, of course, we're going to pay attention to everything, but right away what I'm going to do is just start creating a couple tracks here. Here we have some obvious ones, right? We have the kick, we have a clap, okay, and then we have a bass. So I'm going to go ahead and just draw these guys in right like this. We'll copy this down. Now, at this point in the track, we can hear that there's a low-pass filter on all the drums. Not so much the kick. It doesn't sound like there's one on the kick. Maybe a little bit. But if we come over here, we can hear obviously that it starts to open up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write LPF for low-pass filter and right onto the clip. So LPF opening. So I'm just going to copy this down like that. And I know this is going to duplicate across there. I like to work in 8-bar sections, so this is just 8-bar little clips here. And then I know that there's going to be a shaker coming in, so let's go ahead and do that. And so that's coming in from the beginning. It's just that we can't hear it because the low-pass filter is cutting it out. So just going to copy this down. We'll copy this across. Now, another really cool thing that I'm hearing is this interacting reverb between the kick and the clap. So if you listen in the background, you'll hear a reverb on the kick. Ba, 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 ba. So you get this cool kind of thing going on back and forth with a kick and a clap. And there's another thing that I'm hearing here where you can hear the clap alternate. There's a little sound on the right. It could be a percussion sound, but it could just be like a low hat with a little knock underneath it. But if we just cycle around here, for example, you'll hear that the first open hat does not have it. But right here it does. Bum. Here, that's just bass and hat, right? Bass and hat, but then right here, you hear something on the right. So I'm going to do, oh my God, we didn't create an open hat. So let's get an open hat. And so we'll just do like a main one, open hat 1. And then I'm going to do like open hat 2. Maybe we'll just do hat knock. And I'm going to type right because it is right. Another interesting thing that's going on is the kick on the downbeats of every 4 bars all of a sudden kind of loses its articulation. Listen. So here's the articulated kick. Hear that? You can really hear the knock of the kick. But here on the downbeats of every 4 bars, goes away. I'll play it right here. And you'll hear that the kick is nice and articulate here, but as soon as it gets here, it loses that articulation. So some kind of independent movement on the kick, independent low-pass filter movement on the kick, which is interesting. See, these are all just little tiny details that are worth listening for. And so when it comes to the kick and the clap, what I want to do is somehow mention that they are having interacting reverbs. And so I'm just going to create a new track up here, and we'll just call it notes, because I'm not sure what to do with that. And eventually we're going to also create a new track up there called the edit map, and that's where anytime something happens at the end of 8 bars or 16 bars or something, then that would be called an edit. And so I'm just going to create a little map to cover all those edits, because it would be a nightmare trying to get all the details of the edit in the actual arrangement. The arrangement here is going to be very blocky. It's just going to be a bunch of blocks. But then I'll create an edit map and describe what's going on at every edit point. But here, what I want to do is interaction between kick and clap verb, right? Just like that. And I'll just leave it there for now. But we'll go ahead and move on here. See what happens. Another thing that's going on is everything here is high passed. So we need to do HP, comma, just like this. And then I'm just going to copy these down. So just like that. Cool. Okay. So the low pass filter is still opening here. See, this would be an edit right here. All right, so now I really want to actually listen for some detail, because we're maybe everything's gonna open up right here. So I'm just gonna create an edit map just to create it. So edit map. And then what we can do is we can just right here. All that's happening is basically a low cut, and I can come in later and just describe it. But I just wanted to put that there for now, just to show you the basics of it. And I like to color these guys green. Awesome. So basically the entire intro here is the low pass filter opening, and then halfway through we get the lows. That's the basic idea there. And so now what we're getting is the full expression of the drums and the frequency spectrum, and then we're going to get some spot sounds. And spot sounds are just sounds that get scattered kind of throughout, just in random little spots. This is something that Dennis Cruz does a lot, and we'll see that. So let's keep on listening and create a few new tracks for these spot sounds. All right, we have to listen to what they are, but before I do that, I'm just going to go ahead and redo all these guys and just copy it down like this. Okay. All right, and then it's always nice to listen here. And then if you hear something new, be like, I wonder if I didn't catch that, because you're going to miss things all the time where you're going to pick something up like way down here at the end of the track and you're like, oh, wow, I wonder if I've been missing that the whole time, and you have been. So this happens a lot, but so I always go back and check. So if I hear something, there's a little sound, da-ba, da-ba, da-ba. Right here, da-ba, da-ba. Don't know what that is, but it's not here. So check this out. So I don't know what that is. What is that? Some kind of percussion. All right, so I'm not totally sure what that is, but what we need to do is get after the obvious elements that get added. So see, I missed that snare. There it is. Not high passed or low passed. Okay. Cool. So let's get that guy. So I'm gonna call this just Cinco snare. Maybe, you know what? Maybe we'll call it, Cinco stands for syncopated. Maybe we'll just call it a spot snare. Snare 1. Because there could be a million of these little snares. Let's check. So what I want to do is I'm going to create a little MIDI clip for this. And I'm going to come to a 16th note. And so there it is right there. We're going to fold this just so I know exactly where it is. Oh, wow. I was not expecting it to play that much. Now, there's some interesting things going on with the bass, because you'll hear these weird little harmonics. Maybe they're like bit crushing artifacts or something. Not 100% sure what those are. They sound a little bit low, so the harmonics aren't high at all. Bit crushing is gonna typically have things like way up in the top end, but these harmonics are way down low. So we get it again. So every 4 bars on the downbeats, we're going to get these nice harmonics on top of the bass. And for the next 3 bars, the harmonics are going to be a lot, they're going to be filtered down. So maybe we can just write that over here. So interesting harmonics, something like that. More harmonics on downbeat every 4 bars. There we go. Something like that. Just sounds like a little conga, that little sound or something. I don't know what it is. So I'm going to create a new little track for that. We'll just call this Spot. I don't know. I really don't know what to... I'm trying to figure out a name to call it. I'm just going to call it like Quiet Perk or something. And this is down the center, so to help me figure it out where it is. But I'm definitely going to draw in the MIDI for this guy as well. So we'll go ahead and figure this out. Something like that. And then we will duplicate this and then there's another little synco snare. Synco means syncopated, so spot snare. We'll do 2. So let's check this out. And there it is right here. So this is what I call a front rhythm, where it happens on the front of a beat as opposed to the back of a beat. So we'll come over to the 16th note here, and we need to hit this guy. So there he is. And then probably plays every 2 bars or so. Let's see. Okay, and then we get a little skip like this. So this is the front beat. I'm sorry, this is the front rhythm. This is a back rhythm, and yeah, that's just the name that I call it, because this is the front of the beat, the front half of the beat. This is the back half of the beat, and they give different energies. When you have a little percussion or shaker or whatever emphasizing the front of the beat, it's a lot faster. Feels like the groove is a lot faster, and it's more off-putting. Like, check it out. So it's a lot more exciting. And then when you have a groove emphasizing the back half of the beat, or a back rhythm as I call it, then it's a lot more chill. If you go listen to Fisher's tracks, most of his tracks are the back beat, or the back rhythm. It just goes on the back rhythm, and it's more chill that way. This is a back rhythm as well. This is a beat right here, and you can see this is on the back half. Again, just gives a different vibe, but you're going to find mixtures of this all over the place. As you can see, here's a front and back. But anyway, just some vocabulary. Again, vocabulary from just listening and coming up with stuff and being able to dissect what I hear so that I can then apply it to my own music. And then we get a hat lift, so we'll go ahead and put this in hat 2 lift, and it'll be we'll call it bright. So I'll go ahead and start kind of moving everything into the proper place here. And so this is all percussion stuff, so that for me goes below the tops, even if it's a snare. If it was a snare on the weak beats, where, snares or claps usually go. Then I'll put it up here underneath the kick and the bass. But it's just the way I organize it. So I hear maybe a new shaker in there. There's a shaker that's way down the center now that I haven't heard before. Okay, I guess it was there. Okay, that was the shaker that we've been hearing all along. I just didn't realize how prominent it was. And I also want to write right on there because it's a little bit right, this hat. And the shaker is just a little bit left, so we'll just do L10 for left 10, and we could do R50 for it's pretty far right. And maybe we'll do R30. Okay. And I'm just getting R50 right and left just straight up from pan, because in Ableton 50 right is all the way right, 50 left is all the way left, and so that's just where I'm getting those that from. So here R30 is not all the way right, but pretty far right, and then left 10 is just a little bit left. So. And so here I'm paying attention to the mix, obviously, just a little bit, but really more so about the positioning of the sound in stereo, trying to think about how all the sounds work together, even in the mix. And so we have a hat down the center, that's the main hat. Then a hat lift comes in, but it's not sitting on top in the center. It's a little bit right. So that's interesting to note and pay attention to. So next thing is, just in case I don't miss anything, or just in case I do miss something rather, what I like to do is take this guy and just make sure I'm catching everything. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to flip the polarity here. And so what that's going to do is it's going to cancel these two tracks out, basically. It's going to cancel whatever both of them are playing, and it's going to only give me the differences, basically. So right here, we could hear that we're getting some kind of reverse crash or shake, reverse crash, basically. See that? And so this is basically a crash with delay that Dennis Cruz has over here, and it sounds like what he's done is bounced it and reversed it. And so it's a reversed delayed crash into a delayed crash. So we'll go ahead and create that track, but this is a great way just to hear if you're missing anything. And so let's go ahead and do delayed crash. This is kind of more of an edit. This is where I would put this, but I'm going to go ahead and put it in here for now. And over here, I'm just going to do reverse. Okay, so we'll do delay, crash, bounce, and then reverse. And this is going to be a brown color because it's an effect. So. And obviously now we have a high pass going on, so we'll go ahead and write that. So just HP. And we have to listen to see if we've lost anything. So here we have the clap. Do we have the clap? Yes, we do. Hat. What about hat, the second hat? Okay, let's turn this track off right here. So we got to listen for that hat on the right. And so that hat is now gone. And so we'll take this one out. Shaker's still there. The spot snare is still there. We can see that. And then what about this little weird thing? Nope, that is not there. Okay. And this snare is not there either. Still hear that cool interaction between the kick and the clap reverb. Really cool. Cool. So there is an edit. That is the first kind of major edit right there. There's a lot going on right there. You can imagine how that would be a nightmare if I was going to try to create little tracks for every single thing that happened in the song, because a producer could throw a million little things all in at once, and there's no way. So I prefer just to come over to the edit map and just let's go ahead and work this one out. And so we're getting some kind of drum machine snare, double clap into a double kick, into a clap bomb. Okay, so this is a great example of just your typical effects. So I think of effects in three parts. You have the anticipation, and obviously when you anticipate something, you're anticipating a moment. So you have the anticipation, then you have the moment, and then you have the momentum, or you could say the aftermath. And so where it goes down. Another way you could think about it is tension, and then you get the moment, and then you get the release of that tension. And then another way I like to think about it is a bomb in like a movie, how you have the ticking of the bomb, the countdown, right? And then you have, bam, that explosion, and then you have the shockwave. So this, I call them effects trifectas, where it's 1, 2, 3. It's always anticipation, moment, and momentum. Anticipation, emphasis, momentum. There's a million different ways that we can kind of talk about this, and I don't have really like a standard terms for these, but except for effects trifectas, thinking in terms of threes when it comes to effects. So this is a pretty good example. Sometimes when you have like a clap bomb, that can serve both as the moment emphasis and as the kind of release, the shock wave, the aftermath. Cool. All right, so let's go ahead and fill this out. So this is just going to be like little snares. And then we have a double kick. And then we have a clap bomb. Cool. And so we'll go ahead and do clap bomb. And the cool thing about this too is then you have this delayed crash right here. And so the clap bomb happens on the offbeat right here. Boom-da. And the delayed crash happens on the snare. So interesting. Boo-dip-ah. Like, that's crazy. So, and so the delayed crash is obviously serving as kind of that shockwave thing as well. All right, and So now what we need to do is just double check to make sure that we have everything. I already took a note of this, so I'm just going to ignore that now. I'd rather just have simple clips and then write on them when I actually need to. Otherwise, you're just going to have a lot of writing, and it's going to be hard to see exactly what's important and what's not. So obviously we have a full kick, we have a full bass, the clap. We have the hat 1. We also have the hat bright hat. Still have the shaker. What about the spot snare right here? We still have that. We have the quiet snare or the percussion, whatever it is. Yep, it's still there. It's quiet, but geez, okay. Okay, so this Cinco snare is still there, the spot snare. And then we obviously have now a synth. So I'm going to create a new track underneath the drums here, and we'll call this just synth for now. So kind of a plucky kind of thing, right? So pluck, it's kind of bright and harsh, and is wide. And there's a nice space on it. So we'll just put as many notes as we can onto there. And I'm going to color this in this color. And so it's playing an and-a rhythm. And a 1, and a 1. So just like this. So what we'll do is come over here to 16th notes. And we'll come over to C3. And we'll go 1 just like that. So maybe we just need to go like this. Oh, we got it wrong. Let's move this over just like that. And maybe this note isn't playing. Okay, so we just need to go like this. And there we go. So one thing to pay attention to now is now we have a synth in here. And so the question is how is the synth interacting with the spot sounds, basically the percussion, and then the bass. And so the bass is really interesting at the beginning of the bar. Is basically it builds tension and releases tension. That's basically the way the bass line works. Builds tension, release tension. Builds tension, release tension. Because this note is an unstable note. Boom, boom, boom. It settles, right? It starts out high and then settles. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. And so that's a great place to then create a little bit of excitement here at the end of the bar, where the bass has kind of been a little bit boring, you could say, for the past half a bar. Okay, so. And so another thing that we could point out is that this spot snare and the synth are both anticipating the strong beats. The strong beats are the first and the third beat in a bar. And so here we could see that this spot snare is anticipating the strong beat here, and then the synth is setting up the strong beat here. And so that's also when the bass changes. The bass will play for a long time here. It'll sustain that unstable note here. But then it changes through this part. And so this snare is accenting that change. And then this synth is accenting that change back to the unstable tone. So check this out. So unstable, and then we're going to get the change to the stable note. But this snare is going to help accent that moment when the bass changes. And the exact same thing is here. Here we're on a stable note in the bass. And then here this synth pluck will accent again when we move back to the unstable note in the bass. And so that is the fundamental interaction that I hear going on. And so if I was going to this idea enough is alone is enough to make a track off of, right? So that's why it's so powerful if you're lacking inspiration. If you just start breaking down a reference track, you're going to hear these little things, and that right there, that idea is, let's get a couple things and just these 3 ingredients here. That is basically a starting point for a track. But I want to bring it back to the point. So listen to how these are accenting those bass changes. And then we'll go ahead and just copy this all over. And let's go ahead and double check just to make sure we're not leaving anything out. I'll just bring this over because it's basically the same. Actually, this one has that brighter hat, so I'll move this over. All right, let's check this out. You can really hear that weird sound, and it sounds like it's a synth, actually. This quiet perk right here, I think that's what is playing. Watch this. No, it's not that. It's a different sound. See? I mean, this is why it's cool to do this phase inversion trick, because then you'll pick up on sounds that you didn't hear. Cool, so let's see if we can now hear that actually. That might be the bass. Maybe the bass is just slightly different now. So I can't really hear it. It could just be some weird phasing thing that's causing that sound. So it's cool to hear stuff like that, because it might be something, and then you can go back and just double check that you're not hearing things that aren't real. But I didn't hear anything there, so I'm not going to worry about it. Let's keep on moving on. Okay, so just going to run through and double check. It sounds like, and here's a little edit right here, right? So we're getting, sounds like a double kick right there. And just to double check, I know it's a double kick, but I just want to see it in a different way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the LFO tool on the master here. And here what I've done is I filtered out all of the highs. And so there we go. And so then we're getting some kind of low end kick down there. So if I just cycle around here just to make sure I'm not making things up. Yeah, that's definitely another kick. It's not as heavy and strong as the first kick, but it's definitely another kick down there. So we can go ahead and just put, I'm going to change this to phase. This track is called the phase track. And right here, I'm just going to put a double kick. So double kick, just like that. All right. And we'll go ahead and turn that off. And there's another one over here. Okay, cool. So we got a new little spot sound in there. So let's just run through these. We have the kick, we have the bass for sure, the clap. We have the bright hat for sure. We have the shaker. Let's just double check. Yeah, we definitely have that snare. We have the this snare right here. And then we have this weird hat. So we'll just create another spot sound. And I don't usually call things like spot sounds in most tracks because it's just in Dennis Cruz tracks. Dennis Cruz has all these crazy, what I call spot sounds. It's part of his sound. If I was going to break his sound down, what Dennis Cruz does is he'll have these big break sections. And that break section is there to do one thing, and that is present the hook. And usually it's going to be some kind of vocal, either a spoken word vocal or mostly spoken word vocals. Like I could think of Ice Cube, Mad, these kind of tracks. This one is a male vocal that's singing, but what he does is in the break sections, you have a big hook. That's it. That's what the whole track is about, is really leading up to that hook. And then the way that he keeps it interesting in the drops, sometimes he'll play the hook in the drops, but really the way that he keeps it interesting in the drops is by having these spot sounds. And so if you're going to boil the Dennis Cruz track down, it's going to be a big hook. You have to find a big hook that people are really going to care about and connect to. And then you just really make everything work up to that. It's almost boring, but he makes it work because what he wants to do is create this this dynamic of interest, almost like this contrast of interest, where you have this huge hook that everyone cares about. Like, man, like that hook is so sick, and then everything else is just chill. And so maybe it's a different kind of contrast instead of like interest contrast. It's like, you're relaxing and chilling in the drops. And then when the hooks come in the breaks, that's when it's like, oh my God, you know what I mean? So anyway, that's kind of the basis of a Dennis Cruz track. And the way he keeps it interesting in the drops again is through these spot sounds. And so I call them spot percussion hooks. That's what Dennis Cruz uses. So he has two hooks. He has the spot percussion hooks in the drops, and he has the big vocal hook in the breaks. And that's really it. And then it's just a dark sound, and choosing kind of like a little darker sounds and for the drums and the layers and stuff like that. Except for the hats, obviously. The hats are bright. And that creates a huge gap in the mid-range, right? So you have these really bright elements in the top end, and you have these much darker percussion sounds, and kick sounds and bass sounds. There not a lot of harmonics in the bass, for example. And so this creates this huge open mid-range. And so it almost creates a hole in the mix. But then where does that hole get filled? It gets filled in the breaks with that enormous hook. And so these tracks are extremely well thought out. And so I'll have to do like a breakdown of this in a more concise way. It's just basically the three big things about a Dennis Cruz track or something. But here we go. Let's keep going. So let's create a... okay, and then there's... let's just double check because I was going to create a new... Okay, so this is still there. So I thought that was a new snare that he added in, but same old snare. I couldn't tell if the snare was under there, but it sounds like there is not a snare under there. So okay. So this is on the front, right? So let's come over to 16th, and I'll hit B on the keyboard. We'll zoom in to C. So there it is right there. And so we will then come back over here, and let's spread this out. Just like that. What is this? 2 bars or 4 bars? Okay. See if it's over here. Yeah, it is. Cool. Okay. I was not expecting that, actually. I thought it was going to only be halfway through. But okay, there we go. And okay, cool. So we're getting that reverse again. Yeah, it's kind of working up from about halfway. So we'll do that. There's that big hook. And of course, here we have an edit. Nice. Now we get a big change. So I'm just going to copy everything over because why not? And then we'll just start subtracting. So let's. So obviously we're going to get this big crash again over here. So basically, we don't have any hats. We'll take the hats away. We don't have the shaker. Probably don't have any of the spot sounds. But you can hear that there is a low pass on all this stuff. So I'm just going to copy this all up like this. And why is there a low pass? Well, to create clarity for the vocal. And now the hats, the clap sounds a lot wider. Why is the clap wider? To make space for the vocal. Dennis Cruz is all about creating this enormous hole in the mix that gets filled by the vocal and the break. Ah, see, I didn't catch that his clap is really wide. Let's go back to the very beginning. It's pretty wide. It's not like, I'm going to do wide 40. So wide 40 for me means that both the left and the right are panned about 40. It's not 100% wide, 100% left, 100% right. We're going to do wide 40. That just lets me know that, like, if I had 2 clap sounds, for example, I'd pan one of them left 40, one of them right 40. And so it's pretty wide, but again, that just creates space for the vocal. That's the whole point. And of course, we need to create a track for that, so we'll create a vocal. And I'll go ahead and do this. All right, so I created a little Google Doc here, and what I want to do is just kind of start writing down the things that I find interesting about the track. So far, we saw the low pass filter on the drums opening in the intro. That's interesting, right? That's not something you come across very often, but that'd be fun, something fun to experiment with. Another thing is that the downbeats, the kicks on the downbeats every 4 bars are muted, something like that, right? I thought that was interesting. And then we had, what else did we have? We had a great interaction. Oh, we had the interaction between the snare and kick reverb. That's pretty cool. Another thing is the clear interaction between the synth, the bass, and the synco snare. And the synco snare is just going to be that snare just before the strong beats. And so the synth and the snare are anticipating the bass changes that happen on the strong beats. And so that's really cool. I love that because it's such a simple idea, but it's so powerful because you're getting this bass change, and then it's accented by these really strong elements, and this all happens on the strong beats. So really cool. And then the bass itself is basically a tension release movement, right? Starting on an unstable tone and resolving to a stable tone over 1 bar, right? Cool. Bars. Whoops. There we go. All right, let's keep listening. There was something, though, that made me pique my interest and make me want to start the sheet. Another one, though, is... I mean, the delayed crash is not that uncommon, but I'm going to write it down. So reverse, so having a delayed crash, and then bouncing it and reversing it for an effect. So simple, right? You don't have to get another sound. Just take a sound that you already have and reverse it, and you got yourself a new effect. Really effective. And I'm just going to throw effects trifecta in here because that's something that we came across, but won't go too much into that here. What else is going on? I guess we could talk about the main thing that Dennis Cruz does. So Dennis Cruz track has percussion spot hooks in the drop and a big vocal hook in the breaks. And the drop keeps the mid-range open in the frequency spectrum and the stereo image so that the big hook can fill it during the break. Okay, so that's pretty cool. Definitely an interesting idea there. So that's cool. There's a delay on the word high and nothing else. So you can hear that it's like a dark ping pong delay that's bouncing back and forth left and right here. But that's the only thing that's being delayed on the vocal. Hi. That's what it sounds like to me. But listen to the mix on that because obviously the delays are wide and they're muted because then you don't want the delays to take away the articulation of the main vocal. The main vocal is pretty articulate. It's not harsh though because you could hear that the sun in the sky, those would both be S's. And I'm sorry if I just hurt your ears right now saying that, but sun in the sky, those are sibilant, right? Those are S's. And so... but they aren't coming through in a harsh way. But the vocal's still very bright. There's like a nice top air to it. But those delays are not getting in the way, and that's the whole point here. So we're going to go ahead and just create this, and we'll just do dark ping pong delay as well. So vocal plus dark pong delay. So pong is just going to be a ping pong delay. Okay, so there's a white noise kind of blanket in the background now. So I'm just going to create that. That's definitely something that's there. So white noise just in the background. And we'll go ahead and just create that here. So this is a different clap. So we'll call this a spot clap for now. Spot clap.
on by. Breeze drifting on by. You know how I feel. How I feel. How I feel. Breeze drifting on by. You know how I feel.
So let's go ahead and put this.
Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new how I feel.
Okay, and we get this like kind of pad in the background. I'm not going to dissect it too much right now because there's a lot of things going on that I want to catch. Then we'll dissect it a little bit more, but
Breeze drifting.
and there's this like rattle sound, right? So rattle. So this is definitely an effect. And then so what we'll do is
Breeze drifting on by.
obviously the vocal carries over, and so do the drum bass and the clap.
Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day. It's a breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day. It's a breeze
So that's quiet and wide, at least for now. So here we have this rattle.
drifting on by, you know how I feel.
And so I'm thinking actually that the white noise was the rattle. And so let's go ahead and just duplicate this across. So we'll just type a rattle on here. That's kind of what it sounds like. It doesn't sound like they're different to me. And then
Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day.
and so this is doing just a lot of interesting movement. So rattle. And so here what we could do is we could do res down. And so that's basically, you know, like you take a filter and you just resonate it down. So you just get a high resonance, and then you just go. That's what it sounds like it's doing to me. All right.
It's a new dawn, it's a new day.
All right, and then we're gonna have a kind of a snare fill or clap fill actually. So we'll create this, or clap roll really, clap roll. And then we will change this.
Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day. It's a new day. It's a day. It's a day.
Just trying to work out the pattern here. So let's see. And then because it's interesting to see if that pattern interacts with anything.
It's a new life for me, yeah. It's a new life for me, yeah.
So the vocal definitely carries over. Let's hear what we're losing.
It's a new life for me, yeah.
Okay, let's check the spectrum analyzer down here and see what happens. Sounds like some lows go away.
It's a new life for me, yeah. It's a new dawn, it's a new day. It's a new life for me.
So we lose the kick.
New life for me.
So we don't lose the hat, and we don't lose the bass.
New life for me.
We might lose a sub bass. I'm not sure if he has a sub bass. I doubt
New
it,
life.
because I don't think he'd want to mess with this note.
New life for me. Yeah, it's a new dawn. It's a new day.
So let's check this out over here.
On by, you know how I feel.
So it doesn't look like, it looks like the kick is the one that's dominating this low end, and the bass is just kind of chilling underneath it. So I don't think we lose any sub bass. I think this is actually just what the bass is.
New life for
So when the bass is playing in the track, these are the actual levels.
New life for me. Yeah, it's a new dawn. It's a new day.
All right. So what I want to do is let's get that clap fill.
New life for me, yeah. It's a new life for me, yeah. It's a new dawn, it's a new day. It's a new life for me.
Nice. So we're getting this really cool filter movement on the clap roll. So just a nice little detail to pick up on.
It's a new day.
Cool. Now the clap, spot clap here is happening more. So before it was happening every, what is this? 2 bars, and then because you could just look up at the top. But then now it's happening every bar. So we'll go ahead and consolidate that.
New life for me.
It sounds to me like this is happening. It might not be that the pitch, quote unquote, of the clap is changing, but it could be some kind of filter movement or velocity modulation. Just sounds like there's a dip right here. And so that's what it sounds like is going on to me. And so I'll go ahead and just go like this. We'll consolidate these guys. We'll move this over here because it's probably the same thing that's actually going on. But we'll have low pass opening, and same thing actually right here.
New life for me, yeah. It's a new dawn, it's a new day.
And it's modulating. So it's not just opening, it's also moving back and forth. So for example, if you have like an auto filter, and right now obviously the filter is opening, but there's an LFO applied to this, to the frequency. So not only is it opening like this, it's also subtly moving back and forth as it opens. So it's kind of like, oh man, you know, something like that. That's what's going on. And you could just do that very easily with the LFO mount here. So that's what it sounds like is going on, which is cool. And then, of course, we need to bring the pad over. And
New life. It's a new life for me, yeah. It's a new dawn, it's a new day. It's a new life for me.
pad could be more like a choir type of thing. Maybe it's more of a choir, so I'll just put that in there. I hear voices.
For me.
Definitely not a choir. You can hear it right here. Just, you know, just like a sparkly little pad. So I'll take this away, And what we need to do now is...
for me.
And so we just hear a very simple modulation in the low-pass filter right here, where it just closes and then opens. But we're also hearing that it just plays straight across now. There's no more little gap in the snares. It's just going straight across.
For me.
And so basically what we could do is, sometimes this is fun to put an auto filter. When you hear these obvious things going on, just go ahead and start mapping them. Like, so obviously you can exaggerate it because we're not really doing anything. But here, just something like this. See, as it opens up, and then here it just kind of dips down for a second, and then opens back up. And so the vocal's playing right here. The spot clap is not playing.
For me.
And so in this case, this is getting into the edit, but I'm not really adding any new sounds, and it's a pretty big, it's 2 bars here. So I might as well get this kind of right in the vicinity of what's going on.
For me.
So let's
For me.
okay, and so then here we have a fill. So we'll just zoom in and call this a clap fill. This is definitely getting into the edit, and I'm going to create an edit for this in the map, but I might as well just do it here as well. So this is a 16th note fill. So ba-da-da-da, 1 E and a. So 1 E and a, just like that, and then here we have a double kick. I'm just going to go ahead and put a kick in right there like that. And so here we have, for the edit map, we'll do double kick and clap fill. So double kick, clap fill. And same thing as before. Same thing as before with the delayed crashes on the beats, on the clap. Nice. And then what we have is the clap bomb. So did I not create a clap bomb? I should create a clap bomb actually. So here we have the clap bomb. So I'm just going to come right underneath clap actually, because I'll do this under the claps. So clap bomb. And then we'll go ahead and create one here. And it's on the offbeat. So go ahead like this. And then there we go. So then he has this really interesting delay from the ooh. So here we have the delayed crash and the clap bomb. That's the effects trifecta right there. And then, of course, what we need to do is bring over all the drop elements. So we'll go ahead and bring this over here like that. And then this over here because the synth, obviously. I'm just curious to know how the pad actually ends. So it just gains down right at the end. And there's actually only 3. 1 E and a, 1 E and a. Oh, never mind. There's actually 4. I thought it was da 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 bomb. No, but it's actually 1 E and a boom. So the question is, there's a new clap that we can hear, obviously, that spot clap. Right here. The question is that the same as this clap?
New life for me, yeah, it's a new dawn, it's a new for me.
So this one is obviously very bright, and the other one in here is not. It's got some reverb on it, so we're going to do spot clap 2 here. Spot clap. And the reason why this is really important to get to this level of detail is because it makes sense. Here, like, this is really supposed to be something that pokes out at you. Why? Because this is all filtered. All the other drum stuff is filtered. And then you have this bright clap that pops out at you. But a bright clap isn't going to make sense here because it's going to get in the way of all the other drums. And so it's really just there to continue the rhythm that was created with this clap, but with a more appropriate sound. So that's great. And now we can also hear that spot clap, or I'm sorry, that spot hat from earlier is now playing in the drop. So let's check this out. I'll bring this over. So if we listen in this one, and again, I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything here. Okay, so we're not getting any of the hat, but we will get it right here. This guy. And then that's now over here. So I hope you can see what I mean by these spot sounds and how Dennis Cruz uses these to keep the track interesting. It's just layers and layers and layers of these spot sounds. And listen to how everything is now interacting, like the bass, the spots. If we get away from the crash delay, and so this is kind of now creating an actual motif, a percussion motif, where it's this hummable kind of thing. It's almost like a drum melody. This doesn't happen all the time in his tracks where he has like a pretty discernible melody in the drums, quote-unquote melody, of course, because I'm not dealing with pitch here really, but something that you can hum to. And let's try to hum it out. So da boom cha, da boom dim ba, da boom cha, da boom cha. I'm gonna turn this down, see if I can hum with it. Da boom cha, da boom dim ba, da boom cha, da boom dim ba, da boom cha, da boom dim ba, da boom cha, da boom dim, da boom cha, da boom dim, da boom cha, da boom dim, da boom da, da boom dim, da boom da, da boom dim, da boom da, da boom dim. Now, imagine trying to have a busy bass line with all that percussion going on. Is not going to work. And imagine having a bass with a lot of harmonics. That's not going to work. Everything in the Dennis Cruz track is extremely well thought out. I know that I'm pretty sure he worked as a mixing engineer for years. And so he has an incredible sense of how sounds work in the frequency spectrum. And so he arranges this way. And he is extremely deliberate that he leaves a huge hole in the mid-range and in the stereo image to present that hook. But he's starting to fill it now with these kind of ambient sounds. And notice how all the sounds that he's filling this kind of mid-range with, they're not sounds that are up front in the mix. They're sounds that are kind of pushed back in the mix. They're noticeable, and they're there to pop out at you, but they're not there to pop out at you in the same way that the vocal does. So So we've talked about now creating a hole in the frequency spectrum, which is the vertical axis. We've talked about creating a hole in the stereo image, which is the horizontal axis. And now what I'm touching on is that Dennis Cruz is actually also playing with the depth in the mix. These sounds aren't really out in front in the mix. The vocal is, though. So the vocal is in the middle, it is in the mid-range, and it is in the front of the mix when it comes in. And everything else creates a hole around that space. The arrangement does, the way that he mixed it does. It creates this hole that gets filled when the vocal comes in, and it's extremely satisfying when it comes in. One, from the standpoint that this has been a really kind of dry bass and groove heavy track up until when the vocal finally comes in and we can really connect to something. It just really makes that moment way more special for so many reasons. And I hope that I'm conveying that here, but it's really, really, really well thought out. All right, now we need to get this clap roll over here as well, just like this. Okay, cool. So at this point, this is a pretty exciting new thing. So there's a lot of stuff going on, so we'll probably miss something. So let's take this first part of the drop over here and listen. So, of course, what we can hear is the ooze. We can hear the ooze because those aren't in the other break. We can also hear all the little spot sounds, especially the hat, because that wasn't in the other drop. We can hear the clap wherever it is. This guy. Sounds like there's a kick fill going on here that I might have missed. Some kind of double kick. Okay, so we're actually not missing very much. Actually, we're not missing anything except for that double kick. So let's get that. So double kicks there. And so is that not happening over here? Okay, maybe it is, but maybe not happening with the same intensity or something. All right, moving on. Let's go to the next 8. All right, we'll just go through these one by one. Let's see, we definitely have the kick, the bass, the clap. We don't have the clap bomb, the hat 1. Yes. Hat 2 with the bright hat. Yes. Shaker. Yep, the shaker we have. The spot snare. Let's see. Yep, we got that. We can check just by looking at it really quick. Okay, this sound is really quiet, so it's hard to hear, but it's probably there. And let's check over here, because this hat is now masking this little snare. Yep, we can hear that snare right here. All right, cool. And then we have the hat is obviously there. And then we have this guy. The ooh is now gone. We don't need the ooh delay. The snare's there. Do we have a fill? Yep, we have another clap fill at the end of that one. Okay, so now let's just double check to make sure we're not missing anything here either. So I'm just going to take a little bit of this and let's just check. Okay, don't seem to be missing anything there, so let's keep on going. And let's check this out. Let's go to the next section here. Cool, so now we're going to get the vocal in the drop, so that's cool. And so this is interesting because you have the vocal work up, and then you could go into a vocal right after, right, into the drop. But here what he's doing, he's letting that, he's representing the drop in a really exciting way because we have all these new spot sounds that are playing. And then later on, once you're kind of used to that kind of new chaos, then we're going to introduce that vocal again. And here's the question. Are those spot sounds going to continue when the vocal is playing, or is the arrangement going to clean up? That's a good question. So let's go ahead and move everything over, and we'll go ahead and listen and see what gets carried over and what doesn't. So let's see if there's a little edit here just to could have put a placeholder, and then we'll go back and do all the edits potentially. But I think you get the point. You just literally write down what you hear in the edit box. Nothing too crazy there. Wow, okay, so we're actually getting a pretty intense clap fill here, so I'm glad we went back and checked this out. So let's change this to 16ths. Okay, there we go. Okay, we're going to get the clap bomb again over here, so I'm just going to duplicate this over, and we'll duplicate this over as well. And let's just double check to see if we have the reverse, what's it called, delay crash. Yeah, we do. Okay, so let's do this. It actually spills over, which is really interesting. All right, so there seems to be a lot going on here. So let's figure this out. So we have the kick, we have the bass, we have the clap. We have the hat, the bright hat, we have the shaker. All right, so we really need to just check on these spots, right? We definitely have that guy. Again, we can't really hear this quiet percussion. That's why we called it quiet. And then here we have the snare too. Yes, we have the spot hat and the snare here. Let's see what else. And we have the this guy right here. So let's copy this over right towards the end. But it seems like everything is still there. It's just that the vocal's added on top. Now here's another question. Is the vocal the same volume here as it was playing over here? Let's check this out. So I'm just listening to the mix actually. There's no sidechain on the vocal. See, this right here sounds like really nice compression, at least in the mid-range. Like, it sounds really up front but controlled. But the entire vocal itself seems really dynamic, especially over here. So maybe he's just letting those lower notes not get activated, not activate the compressor, but over here.
Sun in the sky, you know how I feel.
So that's interesting.
Sun in the sky, you know how I feel.
That's really nice. Just a really good sound. Okay, so let's go ahead and move this over. It's really cool to hear that, because I'll typically sidechain vocals, but this is a good mix reference if you're like, you don't want to sidechain vocals, or your vocals not getting, is not intelligible because of your sidechain, and then you pull this mix up and you hear how he's trying to pull it off, and you try to create a similar kind of sound with the vocal. You don't need the sidechain on it, but everything still works in the mix.
Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel.
All right, so here we have to make sure that we have everything.
Birds flying high, you know how. Breeze
So we got the double kicks again. I'm just gonna move this over like that.
drifting.
So we don't have the clap bomb.
Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new.
Another thing is, listen to how busy this sounds. Now, one of the reasons why I like to work this way is because if I tried to sit down and figure out all these sounds right in the middle of the drop, that would be pretty hard. That really would. I really like to work up slowly, because now that it sounds chaotic, we have everything perfectly broken down. And so it does sound like there's a lot of crazy spot sounds going on and stuff, but we can see exactly how they all interact. We can see exactly what the sounds are, and it's really, really helpful to break that up and understand how they're laid out, because it's not just laid out in a chaotic way. It's laid out in a very very deliberate way, you could say, because none of these sounds are really stomping on each other. The hat is sometimes over this snare sound somewhere. Oh, this snare sound right here. We can see there's an overlap right here, but we can see that this hits, then this hits, then this hits. And what's so cool is that we have this close interaction, this really quick firing of percussion, but they're all different sounds, and so it sounds really interesting. And then when we have all these little sounds playing very simple rhythms, look at this, just one and then two and then one and two, it makes it all adds up to sound like something really complex, but when you break it down, it's all very simple. It's just understanding and being deliberate and intentional about how you're layering the sounds and where you're placing them. And we talked about this a number of times throughout this video, is looking at how these basic sounds, and particularly we looked at the clap, this snare right here, how this interacts with this synth sound and the bass, how all three of those elements work together to create an interesting effect, how this helps anticipate the bass note change down here on the strong beat, and then how this helps anticipate the bass note change back to the unstable tone on the next strong beat, or actually on the down beat. And so it's all very simple, but when you all add these up, that's when it sounds complex and interesting. But when you break it down, again, it's pretty simple. And it's really helpful to see that, right? Because you don't have to be overwhelmed. It's just about deliberately and intentionally building up the layers that work together, and choosing the sounds that'll work together. And so let's keep listening here.
It's a new dawn, it's a new day. It's a new life for me, yeah. It's a new dawn, it's a new day.
All right, so here we're now into a break.
New life for me. It's a new life for me.
So we get the clap bomb here again.
New life
Let's see if we have the reverse delay here.
day. It's a new life. It's a new dawn. It's a new day. Sun in the sky.
If you listen for it, there's actually this texture on the right-hand side. Again, I'm going back just to hear if it's other places. So I don't hear it here. Let's go back to the drums. Yeah, there's definitely some kind of texture going on there. So I'm just going to create kind of like a mid-range texture, and we'll call it wide and then mid-range. So I'm just going to put this here. And the reason I heard that was because I'm listening for some kind of transition element. So probably the delayed crash, that's what I'm listening for. So I'm kind of trying to listen around in the mid-range. And
It's a new life.
it's actually kind of a sparkly thing that happens here.
It's a new dawn. It's a new day. It's a new life.
All right, so this is an edit that definitely needs some examining.
It's a new life. It's a new dawn. It's a new day. It's a new life.
I think it's really just a reverse crash right here. So let's just put reverse. So we'll do this.
It's a new life for me.
Okay, cool. So getting into a break now. Let's go ahead and copy all these drum sounds over like this and see what we need to do.
New life for
So obviously we need to put HP for high pass on these guys.
new life for me.
And the hat, do we have?
New life for me. Yeah, it's a new dawn. It's a new day. It's a new day. Yeah, it's a new.
Okay, so it's hard for me to tell if we still have the bright hat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to listen in the beginning to see when it comes in. Okay, there it is.
New life for me. Yeah, it's a new dawn. Sun in the
Okay, so somewhere along the way we picked up a lot of hat layers and we didn't notice that. Let's see. Okay, so is that the same pretty much as this? Yes, so these are the same. Okay, so cool. So those are all the same. So we had the big break, and then we get into this part. We might have picked up another shaker too. So this shaker's pretty high. Okay, but I think over here we now have a mid-range shaker. Okay, so in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm not 100% sure. I could sit here for hours and actually try to figure this out, but instead what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do hat layers. I'm not 100% sure what was added. It sounds maybe like some mid-range. We could figure it out, but for the sake of time, even though this is going to be going on for a while, let's go ahead and just write hat layers. That way, when you're working on a track or something, and you know that, okay, let's really start spicing up the hats and get them sounding a lot thicker, then what you could do is just start doing a hat stack and just listen to what hats you have. Okay, I have a bright one. I have a slightly kind of wider mid-range one. Maybe I'll get a wide mid-range one. Maybe you get all these kind of crazy hats going and just create a hat stack. And that's basically what I would do here. And then what I need to do is get a shaker. So we're going to do, this is bright. And so let's also then create a mid-range one. So then I'll just basically, let's just duplicate this. There we go. That's easy. And then this is actually in the center. There's a little bit of a room reverb on it to push it back in the mix a little bit. So this is going to be kind of mid. mid-range, so we're not confused by mid-side, because that could be center as well. But then we'll also do mid-range, center, and I'll do room. So right here what I'm doing is I'm writing down the dimensional qualities, right? So this takes care of all 3 dimensional qualities. And the 3 dimensions are going to be, obviously, we talked about it, the up and down, the vertical axis, which is the frequency spectrum, the left to right, which is the horizontal axis, that's a stereo image, and then we have the front to back, right, the z-axis, and that's going to be the I don't actually think of it as the z-axis. It's just the front to back, and that's going to be the depth. And so here, the mid-range is telling us where in the vertical axis it is, where in the frequency range, where in the horizontal axis, well, it's in the center, that's where it is in the stereo image. And then the room pushes it a little bit further back, so it's further away from the front of the mix, getting a little bit deeper into the mix, kind of more in the mid-range. Not the mid-range, the mid-ground of the mix. It's a little bit late here. Forgive me. And so this is having actually a front emphasis is what I call it, front emphasis. And the front emphasis means that it's focusing on is emphasizing the front rhythm. Remember, it's that 16th note on the first half of the beat. So if I zoom in to a beat here, and let's go there. So these are going to be, let's actually zoom into 16th notes. So this is going to be a beat right here. So a front rhythm is going to be this 16th note, and a back rhythm is going to be this 16th note. And to me, what this rhythm is doing is it's emphasizing the front rhythms. And so, let's see, so it's basically emphasizing these points. Now, I'm not saying that there's no back rhythm to it, but that's just the feel that it gives me. It gives me a front rhythm feel. And so I'm just going to go ahead and loop this. So, whoops. So I need to actually come over here like this. So we'll go ahead and loop right here, just like this. So if we look up here, actually what we can do is really actually just draw out what we're hearing. So I'm going to do that. Let's go ahead and draw out this rhythm. So let's change over to 16th notes here. That's what it sounds like is going on. Cool. And so we'll move on from that because I don't want to get too detailed. So let's go like this.
Drifting on back to life for me. Yeah, it's a new dawn. It's a new day. It's a new dawn. It's a new day.
Okay, so now let's check the spots over here on this break.
For me, yeah, it's a new dawn, it's a new day, new life for me. New life for me, yeah, it's a new dawn, it's a new day.
So that clap is gone. This guy right here.
It's a new life for me.
And the spot hat is gone as well. So this guy right here.
It's a new dawn. It's a new day. Breeze drifting on by, you know.
And I'm actually going to write that this is right because he's pretty far right.
You know how I feel.
I'd say I write like 20 or 30 maybe.
You know how I feel.
Again, just out of the middle, so out of the center, so it's making space for the vocal.
New life for me. Yeah, it's a new dawn. It's a new day. New life for me.
Curious to see what the synth actually looks like.
New life for me. Yeah, it's a new dawn.
So you can see that it's actually just a bass note, just playing an A.
New life for me. Yeah, it's a new dawn. It's a new day. New life for me.
Or maybe it's playing a G. I'm not sure why it's showing an A right here.
New life for me. Yeah.
You see, it's just a saw wave though, just bow out.
New life for me. Yeah, it's a new dawn. It's a new day.
You can hear that texture a lot better that I was hearing earlier here.
Dawn. It's a new day. New life for me.
So if I just solo the left channel, you hear it down the middle now. Wow, 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 wow. Playing a D. It actually has a tone to it. And since other things are playing G, this track is probably in G minor. So this continues.
New life for me. Yeah, it's a new dawn. It's a new day. New life for me. New life for me. Yeah, it's a new dawn. It's a new day. New life for me.
And then we'll do the ooh delay here. Make sure this is the pad though. Is this the pad?
For me.
Yeah, it is, but it doesn't sound as full over here on this side. Here's is a lot more full over there.
For me.
Okay, so maybe this entire time this is just the pad. It's just high passed. So I'm gonna actually do this. Look, this that's 8 bars. So we're gonna do actually HP because it's not a full sound, but it's definitely something going on there. So. Now it goes away because now that we're starting to subtract into the outro. Yeah, exactly. So let's finish this up. Cool. What we need to do is obviously double check for everything. So we have the kick, we have the bass, we have the clap. And we have the clap bomb. Oh, wow. And we need to get the crashes as well. So just like that. Okay, we definitely have the bright hat layers. Let's just compare it from over here. Yep, they sound the same, so we still have the hat layers. Have the mid-range shaker I could hear. And what about these spot sounds? We have the synth, obviously. There's a random little percussion hit. If you can, it's like a sticks or blocks. Right here. Bow, bow, bow. Bow, bow. So I'm not going to create anything for that. That's like just so minor, but it is important to just have these little tiny things going throughout the track. So we have a double kick over here.
It's a new dawn, it's a new life for me. Sun in the sky, know how I feel.
Just checking all these double kicks here.
It's a new dawn, and on by, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky.
So he's obviously being very conscious of where the vocal is playing, because here there's a pattern of double kicks everywhere. But then right here there's not. Why? Because there's a vocal playing right here.
Sun in the sky.
So he doesn't put one there, but he does put one here because there's a vocal gap.
How I feel. It's a new dawn.
See that? So everything is conscious here. Everything.
It's a new life. It's a new life.
So we don't have this little clap fill here. I was just checking because I saw a clap roll and I was like, I wonder if there's any clap rolls around this part, but there's not. Okay, there is one right there, so. Just checking the hats. So let's see. Okay, they still sound really full, so we've got all the layers there. We have the kick, clap, open hat, bass. So you can hear there's a different shaker. So I was just double checking the shaker. Check this out. Definitely hear there's another shaker in there. It's a little bit more mid-rangey as I labeled it here. I just was double checking that. So let's check the spots here in the outro. So we definitely have that big snare. We still have the little percussion sound here. It's hard to hear, but it's there. I heard it. Okay, we still have the snare too, and we have this hat. Okay, Okay, we get the double kicks over here, and then what about here? So everything's pretty much the same, right? So let's just go ahead and verify. We'll just move this to the inversion track, to the phase track, and here we go. Okay, so cool. We get some little snare thing going on here. Where's that coming from? Let's see. Nice, look at that subtle subtraction. So this guy right here, snare 2. Let's see if he's there. Nope. He's gone. That's crazy. Wow, look at that super subtle subtraction. Just one thing. Cool. And then we're gonna, and so then we have an edit here, so that, or I guess you could call this a mini break, and that way we can get away with subtracting more elements over here. So you can feel the energy drop right there. So let's see what we're missing. Let's take this guy and move him over here. And we'll do a preliminary, just go through these one by one first. Okay, the hats are still there. Shakers are still there. You can hear there's a low pass filter coming down now on the hats, but snare 1, let's see. That's still there. Okay, this little quiet percussion thing is there. What about this hat thing? Okay, so the hat goes away as well, so we're left with basically the basic groove. So without any spots except for the main kind of spot sound, which is this big snare sound. And the synth goes away as well. So either there's a low pass on the hats, or we're having some of the hat layers gain down. Sounds like they're gaining down. So this one for sure is gaining down, the bright hat on the right. So then we're getting that reverse whatever, the reverse crash. Let's see if we're missing that anywhere else. Okay, we're not. Cool. And in this example, the crash hits on the downbeat because they don't have that, because Dense Cruz doesn't have that clap bomb. It just hits right on the downbeat. So we get the reverse into just the simple downbeat crash with a delay. and you can really hear that snare kick reverb interaction again. You can hear it throughout the track, but as things start to wind down and subtract, these things will come back up again. Let's just check this against. Okay, well, let's just take this one away. You can hear I can't speak. You can really hear what Crash is actually, or what Open Hat has added here. It's a really mid-rangey 3 to 5K, more 3K hat with a lot of texture and a lot of kind of room reverb. And that goes away. Now we're getting back to precise. And I wonder, are they? It doesn't sound like it's that high. I'm going to check isotope spectrogram here, and the hat doesn't seem like it's going full spectrum. It seems like it's actually pretty low, under 10K, I'm guessing. Yeah, for sure. Look at that. So here's 12K. Okay, whatever. But yeah, it doesn't go very high. That's what I was talking about earlier, that with a kind of darker feel to the Dennis Cruz tracks. The hat is really centered around here. You can see around between about 4K up to about 7K. Typically, an open hat's going to actually be closer to around like the 7K area, but this is a darker style, so. All right, so we have the shakers. And the shaker's gone, actually. Actually, let's just double check this. We're still getting a little bit of some kind of ambience from the hats. Even from the intro, but this mid-range shaker is now gone, although it shouldn't be gone from over here. Should be all the way through, just like that. And the hat layers are gaining down here as well. And I will say that this is gaining down as well. And so what that tells me is this might actually be a loop that is behind everything. That there's, well, maybe a couple loops, of course, but there's maybe a loop or a couple loops that are creating this mid-range shaker plus the hat layers. So instead of having two separate tracks, maybe it's just one loop, but yeah, you know, having separate tracks gives you more control. So okay, so this is interesting. Listen to the snare sound here. Now listen to it here. So this is a high. This is high passed. Just fascinating. See, I've never even thought to do that. Now I have to, you know, because that's interesting. Just like we're trying to settle the energy, so it doesn't make sense having this enormous snare sound, right? So let's just take out the lows. Okay, something's happening to the clap. Wow, you like almost can't help but notice that open hat sound. Just super dark. And we can actually isolate that with a plugin. So let's check this out. It's a little bit hard. It's a little bit hard. It's not quite working because we are trying to zoom in on the master, but really cool. Okay. And so I think there's a low pass filter going on again, and we can actually see that with Isotope's Insight. I guess not. That's cool. I guess not. So there's got to be some kind of like drum reverb going on because, and that's fading out because you can hear there's a little bit more ambience over here. It's almost like a long pre-delay on his reverbs, and then here's a little bit cleaner. And so what I'll do is just put this over here, and this is reverse. And just double check, we got the kick, bass, the clap, hat. We got the high shaker. We got this little knock hat that's been throughout the whole thing, but it's such a minor thing, but whatever. And this guy's still going. And there's the weird delay crash right there. So that's it. Nice. And so that is basically the entire arrangement. There probably is a number of extra tracks for textual things and little things that we heard here and there, but this is the bulk of it. And then, of course, what you could do is always just throw in more sounds just to get things more interesting. But this is like the bulk of the arrangement, and it's extremely helpful to go through it. And you just watched me go through it, and you learn so much, especially when you really get into the details, and if you have fun and you sample the track, or if you try to come up with the groove as you're doing this because you get inspired. Like it's an extremely helpful exercise. And now what we could do maybe is jump over here and let's see what we've covered so far, see if we can write anything else down. So low pass on the drums opening in the intro, that was cool. I want to write down lots of hat layers and stacking. That's where you just stack layers of hats onto each other. And especially in the mid-range from about 3 to 7K-ish, so a slightly darker kind of hat. And let's see what else. The kicks on the downbeats every 4 bars are muted. That was a weird thing in the intro. I totally forgot about that. I'm not sure if it continued through the track, but that was interesting. Interaction between the snare and the kick reverb. And then we have the clear interaction between the synths, the bass, and the synco snare. Yep, anticipating the bass changes that happen on the strong beats. Yep, the bass is basically a tension release movement. Cool. Having a delayed crash and then bouncing it and reversing it for an effect. You have your effects trifectas. Lots of double kicks. Oh, you know what? And intentional. You know, he took the double take double kicks out under vocal. But really, the main lesson there is to be here is to be deliberate, right? and almost have the sounds and make it are almost aware of each other. And I've called this self-awareness before as an interesting kind of concept, where really good tracks have this level of self-awareness where everything is deliberate, nothing is getting in each other's way. They're all working together. It's like a beehive. You know, I think bees are able to sense each other or whatever. I don't know. But so anyway, and then what else is there? Okay, this is breaking down the Dennis Cruz track, where you have a big hole in the middle of everything. Basically, a hole in the frequency spectrum, hole in the stereo image, and a hole kind of in the front of the mix in the mid-range. That way the vocal can completely occupy that spot during the breaks, and if you bring it back in the drops, that'll be cool. One thing I want to write down is that there's no sidechain on the vocal. Interesting, right? In the drops. But it all works. And again, that's because there is a huge hole that's created for that vocal. But even just getting it with the kicks, what we should look at is how much headroom does the kick actually take up in the drop. So if we just look at the LFO tool, so right here, when you see this is a limiter. Okay, the kick, the limiter is just bringing up the low end and just sawing off everything that passes above it. And so there's the limiter. And then let's turn on the low pass. So you can see the kick is alternating up and down because of the clap movement as well. Or he's just trying to emphasize the strong beats. But you'll see this a lot where the kick will duck under the clap because of the limiter. It sounds like he's pushing the limiter pretty hard. Not too hard though, really. Okay, and this is perfect. Because you can hear when the vocal is playing, the low end is sacrificed. Yeah, just the strong beats, he's really making those hit hard. The low end isn't sacrificed really that much at all. I thought it was going to be sacrificed because I thought that if we went back to an earlier drum part, that we'd see the kick hitting at the full headroom every time. But it's really that first downbeat that hits hard, and then it kind of hovers right around here. And that's exactly what's going on when the vocal's still playing. Yeah, it's not really any sacrifice whatsoever. Interesting, cool. And then the bass isn't that loud. You'll see you get a little spike every now and then. Most of the low end punch is coming from the kick, and so that's cool. And so that gives more room for the vocal. And so no sidechain on the vocal in the drops, but it all works because of the hole in the mid-range and center channel. And then also, the low end isn't sacrificed at all. And that could be for a number of reasons, because of compression on the vocal, just keeping it really solid, but high passing on the vocal to make sure it doesn't get in the bass's way. Yeah. And then what else is going on? Let's see. Subtle subtraction in the outro. right? Did we do hat stacking? I'm just gonna write it down. Yeah, stacking. So yeah, that's kind of it, I guess. But look at this. These are all cool things that I can try when I work on a track next, you know, all things that I can think about, all techniques that maybe that stood out to me, right? This isn't something like I'm not writing every single thing down. I'm just simply writing down things that stand out to me. And as you listen to different tracks, different things are going to stand out to you, and write them down. Right? These are the things that you can come to when you're out of ideas, and that you can try when you're out of ideas, because you know that they're going to be good because they worked in a Dennis Cruz track, you know, a master kind of producer. And so it's cool to have this bank of ideas and then just try it out. And like right now, I'm super inspired to start a track and just try any of these ideas out. Use one of them as a starting point and then see where it takes me. You know, and so it's instant inspiration, but you learn a crap load in as you do the exercise. And that is it for this breakdown. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave any comments or questions below this video, and I will hit you up there. But let me know who else you'd like to see. What other tracks you'd like me to break down. Awesome. Have a good one. Now go analyze some tracks. Seriously, though, right? How inspiring. All right. See ya.